Search is so valuable because people start their exploration, their journey on almost everything from that has led to a $2 trillion company. Now you move from breadcrumbs to the answer to actual answers. Like right now, you don't have to get breadcrumbs to your outcome. You can ask the question and get right to the answer. That is going to be way bigger than a $2 trillion business. That's going to be way more valuable because everybody's going to start all of their journey, their health journeys, their travel journeys, everything. So it's even bigger than Google was.
Hello, and welcome to the Media Copilot. It's a podcast that explores how AI is changing media, journalism, and content creation. I'm Pete Pachal, longtime tech journalist and founder of the Media Copilot, and I'm excited to bring you fascinating conversations with fellow journalists, media executives, and the people building how the business of news will work in the future. This week, I'm thrilled to talk to Bill Gross. Bill is the founder and CEO of ProRata, and he's spent basically his entire career creating and scaling companies at the intersection of tech and media. ProRata might be his most ambitious project yet, though. It's a platform designed to make sure AI-generated answers come with proper attribution and real revenue for publishers. Right now, everyone's talking about scraping, licensing, and what the AI-driven internet is going to mean for the business of media. So Bill's perspective on how to remake the whole system couldn't come at a better time. Bill and I dig into the state of AI in media right now, what ProRata's learned from its early days, and what it's doing with its AI search engine Gist. We also talk a lot about what a healthy media ecosystem with AI looks like. Hint, it involves advertising, but just not maybe in the way you think. I'm often convinced that AI, while it can be healthy for journalism, it also means the media business might be smaller going forward. Bill actually did a good job of convincing me there's a vision where it's actually bigger than ever before. Turns out there is room for optimism after all. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and if you do, I'd be grateful if you'd leave a review for the podcast. Reviews, especially in Apple and Spotify, really do help the show. Please leave one if you can. Also, just a couple of quick notes. First, I'm offering a monthly class on AI for beginners. It's only 60 minutes, and like everything I do, it's focused on practical takeaways for media professionals, so people in journalism, PR, communications. And it's only $49. Each one's a live class, so it's always up to date, and I guarantee you'll walk away with something you can apply in your day-to-day. You can sign up at mediacopilot.ai. Also, for deeper training on AI, I offer 2 different 6-week courses that are starting in October. One's for journalists, and the other's for PR and comms. These are loaded with lessons on things like deep research, how to automate workflows, and even building your own AI agent. You can sign up for those at, where else? Mediacopilot.ai. Okay, now it's time for my conversation with Bill Gross, CEO of ProRata. Bill, welcome to the Media Copilot.
Thank you for having me.
Cool. Yeah, I'm really thrilled to talk to you. I've been following ProRata, and I've actually been browsing your LinkedIn even before we sat down today. It seems like you have a lot of entries of founder and CEO and chairman, but I also know that you're very focused on ProRata right now, and particularly media and its intersection with AI. That's great. I am too. And since the founding, well, the ProRata says, and I'm quoting right from the website here, is to do nothing less than making sure that there's a thriving ecosystem of creators, businesses, and consumers that benefit from the emerging world of zero-click search. That's a great goal. And my first question is, how's that going? How far are you away from that goal, that vision today?
Well, we really feel we're setting a standard that we want other people to emulate. We feel that revenue should be shared from AI engines just as revenue is shared in almost every other creative endeavor. Revenue is shared to musicians in Spotify. Revenue is shared to YouTube creators. Revenue is shared to app developers. It should be no different when people's content is used to provide value to users. That revenue should be shared with the creators. So our whole goal is to really make that happen. Whether it happens through us or through just the pressure of our example would make us happy either way.
And the that's certainly I think most people would say, even people who are in charge of AI companies, that they're aligned with that goal. I think in the world that we live in, and with all its politics and Silicon Valley, like I get a lot. It's like always early days in Silicon Valley for some reason, and I feel like even though generative AI has now been with us for like almost 3 years, and in a very kind of real sense, at least two. Everyone's still claiming it's early days. And the thing is about, what you're talking about with the fair compensation model, like it doesn't feel like it's early days, you know what I mean? So even though I cover this a lot, I also feel like things are evolving towards some kind of consensus. And I just curious if you feel the same way, like, since I spoke to Annalise over there and have had other conversations. There's been a lot more deals. There's been a lot more lawsuits. Companies like Cloudflare are coming out, taking a stand ostensibly in favor of content creators. Are we heading toward a consensus? Like, what is your sense of this?
Well, I haven't seen a consensus toward what we believe is a full revenue share. I've seen some deals where people make one-time payments up front, even large one-time payments up front. But a one-time payment is not enough to sustain a creative organization. So I feel revenue share is the only way that will make creativity sustainable, and I want to keep pushing for that. I haven't seen enough movement to that. I still have seen some AI companies claiming poverty and saying, oh, we can't make our business model work if we have to share revenue. And they're taking in billions of dollars of revenue. They actually have billions of dollars of revenue. Yes, they are still losing money because they have big expenses, to be fair. But they also have billions of dollars of investment capital that they could use to share revenue. So I'm still pushing for something which I feel is much more fair to creators than they have moved to at the moment.
And so when you say, okay, there's not a consensus on like how to do it, is there at least a consensus that we should do it? Like, do you feel like that? Because it feels like that was the debate not even that long ago, that it was kind of like there's this argument that, oh, AIs are just doing what humans do. They're learning from the content, et cetera. And it's sort of publicly available, right? Have we at least moved away from that idea?
I think we're starting to. I don't think we're fully there. The fact that you feel we have moved to that is very encouraging, because my sense in the industry is that there still is a lot of a belief that this is different than copying information. This is different in that we can't afford to pay the full amount that we're taking away from websites, and they're still not there yet. But I hope we're getting there. But here's an example. There were 1 trillion page views a day on the internet last year. On average, across the whole internet, about 1 trillion page views a day. That's down 25% this year. It's down to 750 billion a day. So 250 billion page views a day have evaporated because of AI search engines. So that's 250 billion page views of value, advertising, subscription, other services that have been taken away from websites. If you take 250 billion page views a day, multiply by 365 days a year, and even at a very low $1 CPM, that's $100 billion a year. So $100 billion a year of value has shifted, even at a low CPM, has shifted from websites to AI companies. They are not paying $100 billion a year. They're not paying half of $100 billion a year. They're paying hundreds of millions of dollars a year, if even that. So I feel that it's not anywhere near the fair compensation from what is being taken to what is being given back. And that Cloudflare has even pointed that out. I think they point out very clearly what, maybe you heard these numbers, how the ratio of value exchange has happened over the last years in search. Have you heard some of these numbers?
Yeah, some of them, yeah, maybe not from Cloudflare, but I know Tollbit has similar numbers, and I've definitely read the
let me share
report.
this particular one that Cloudflare shared. 10 years ago, Google crawled your website 2 times for every visitor they delivered. So it wasn't quite 1-to-1, but it was 2-to-1. But at least for every time they crawled your site, half a visitor was delivered back to your site. In January of this year, that was 6-to-1. So the economics got 3 times worse with Google. And in May of this year, it was 12-to-1. So already, even Google is giving back way less than they're taking. For ChatGPT in January, it was 250-to-1, and now it's 1,200-to-1. So they crawl your website 1,200 times for every visitor they give back. That is not a fair value exchange. And that has to be changed pretty dramatically. I don't think they feel that that is unfair. The AI companies, I don't feel that they think that is unfair, and that is what I feel. Uh, the web was built on a fair value exchange between the portals and the search engines and the websites that they got the content from. And this now is being very different. So a big rebalancing is in play. And I feel that if we can play a role in helping shift that back to what I feel is closer to one, that would be a great service to creators around the world.
Well, yeah, those numbers, yeah, I've heard variants of them, and they're pretty shocking just in terms of the scale, what we're
Yes.
talking about here. And there's a lot of focus, rightly, on like how much fewer visitors there are, like human visitors to websites. But
Yes.
the reverse is true as well, which is that, oh, the bot traffic is huge, you
Yes.
know, and I know Tolbit's numbers sort of reveal this too in terms of the
Yes.
actual amount of scraping, whether it's for training, whether it's for search, whether it's for agents, is getting comparable to regular search. So that also seems to represent like an opportunity, right? Which is kind of like
Absolutely.
the whole point of this. Like
Yeah.
we need some kind of standard on what is a scrape, how is it charged, like where are the various points it should be monetized, I guess.
I agree. I think there's a great business model for charging per crawl or per scrape, in addition to charging when your content is used. I think both need to happen. Basically, I think of it as charging for the input and charging for the output. The analogy for music would be there's a fee to upload all the songs into Spotify, and there's another fee paid every time the song is listened to. The analogy to what you just described is every time a bot scrapes the site to get the information in the first place, there should be a fee, and I agree. And then there also should be a fee when it's used in the output. And why that could be very valuable and viable for the bots and why it's such a challenge right now. Take Wikipedia, for example. Wikipedia is used a lot by all the crawlers. Everyone wants to crawl Wikipedia first. There's 7 million or 8 million great articles there. And if bots are crawling, bots don't make donations. Humans make donations to Wikipedia. We actually compensate Wikipedia. Whenever we use Wikipedia and answer, we compensate them. I think we're the only ones who do that. We ProRata. But if all the bots are scraping Wikipedia and just go grab all 8 million articles, that's a huge amount of serving cost that Wikipedia has to give to those 8 million articles. And it's costing them something like 35% of their monthly bill right now. Their expenses are just bots crawling. So that just even proves the unfair value exchange, and that here's a company that is having to pay out of their own pocket to support the bots crawling because they're crawling so much. And that, I just think, is unfair. And we're just hoping to try and make that be fair.
So that's great about the Wikipedia, and the whole idea of paying per crawl sounds conceptually great. What I sort of think about, though, is that as bots will surely proliferate, as more people start to use agents, as AI just sort of becomes more of a central thing in our information ecosystem, do we get to a point where like the slivers of payment get really, really thin, to a point where it's almost like too tiny? I don't know. Maybe we're not there yet, but I kind of think about this in terms of like small publishers versus big publishers, and if my stuff isn't crawled out that often, do I just get sort of fractions of a fraction of a cent? And is that going to be anything that can, even if it's not, I can't sustain a business model, is it going to be even significant? I guess my sort of bigger question in all this, like where do smaller publishers stand in all this, and just how big a portion would sort of bot traffic do you think in the long term be to like how much is it going to matter to future business models?
I believe it will matter greatly. Here's why. I think if you look at the evolution of search over the last several decades, start going back into the 1990s at first, when you had Yahoo and Lycos and AltaVista and Excite. Search was primarily directories. Actually, Yahoo started as a directory, a handmade directory of websites. Then with Google, we had 2 decades of really, really good link strength algorithm that surfaced the 10 best links based on the whole internet of links backposting to other places. And that gave you breadcrumbs to a really good result. And that led to a $2 trillion business. Search is so valuable because people start their exploration, their journey on almost everything from that it led to a $2 trillion company. Now you move from breadcrumbs to the answer to actual answers. Like right now, you don't have to get breadcrumbs to your outcome. You can ask the question and get right to the answer. That is going to be way bigger than a $2 trillion business. That's going to be way more valuable because everybody's going to start all of their journey, their health journeys, their travel journeys, everything, product journeys, and all kinds of information journeys, people using it as a therapist. So many different things. So it's even bigger than Google was. That means that people will pay premium subscriptions to get better answers. People will pay a whole range. People will have ad-supported versions. People will have premium versions. And I feel that there's going to be so much money in it that there's way more money to share if it's shared fairly. So I actually think it won't be little tidbits that go to you. If you have specialized content that people want, as part of my subscription, I will want your content in my answers, and you will get a portion of what I pay. And that's going to be very valuable.
Well, and I know, obviously, one of the great things about ProRata is that you're not just doing this in theory. You're kind of dogfooding the technology. You're building your own attribution engine. You've got just.com or just.ai, whatever it is. You have your search engine, which I know is also, I know the point isn't to make it a massive search destination, even though I'm sure you wouldn't argue against that. It's like, supposed to demo the technology and to have it as a kind of a corpus that can be leveraged in other ways. Right. Tell me a little bit more about like the status of Gist. I know the last time I checked in with you guys, I think you were in about the hundreds of publishers. Can you tell me like how many you have in that, but also like how has the sort of vision there evolved on what you're going to do with this?
Yeah, we are so happy with how that has progressed. When I started the company last January, we didn't even know if anybody would join in our mission with us. By August, we had signed 5 publishers. By the end of the year, we had 100. You said we had several hundred a few months ago. We just crossed 750. So we have 750 different publications who have all joined in on a 50-50 revenue share model. So with 750 publications, we now have 30 million documents from those publications, all in this RAG system, so that we can answer questions. We can answer almost any question. 99% of any question can be answered. And if we can't answer a question from the 30 million documents, we don't make up an answer. We say, we can't answer the question from these documents. Would you like us to do a web search, or do you like to search somewhere else? So rather than hallucinating an answer when we don't know the facts, we only pull on those documents. And so far, the progress has been fantastic. People love the answers. It's a fully ethical search engine, meaning there's not a single piece of content that is in there for which we don't have explicit permission in advance. And what we're really trying to show is that can work. That is sustainable. The publishers like it. Publishers will agree to it, and that it gives great answers.
And now that you have it, what are you doing with it, right? Like, as I understand it, if you could like essentially white label this for, other third parties who want a corpus that isn't the entire internet the way like the major engines do, but also isn't so narrowly focused. It feels like it's in kind of a sweet spot, because as I sort of think about the chat experiences on media sites and other specific sites, I feel like one of the weaknesses is that it's only that site usually, right? And you're kind of like often you want to sort of bring in other context, and it seems like this is a good way to do that without getting all the junk.
It's a great way to do it without getting the junk. It's a great way to do that while being ethical. So here's what we're doing. You can go to gist.ai and do a search. We are now going to our 750 publication partners and rolling out a search box at their sites that include their content at their own site, plus this corpus of great content if it can't be answered from their own site. So it's exactly as you said. If you go to a specific site and you ask a question and it's only being answered from that site, you might be missing something important. But by adding in the other 749 publications, you can have good answers for just about everything. So our real goal is to get broad distribution of this powered by Gist search box to really have a concerted effort where all these sites are working together, cross-promoting one another as well. So you might go to The Atlantic and do a query, and you might end up at a Time magazine piece of content because they're both partners in our corpus.
And at what scale would it have to get to be a significant revenue driver? I know you're mostly just doing, it's a lot of proof of concept, a lot of just showing this is doable, but it seems like this could be almost like the news search engine, so to speak, if it sort of had enough core sources. It sounds like it's well on its way.
Yes, it's well on
Um,
its way to being a new distributed search engine where all the traffic won't originate at gist.ai, but it will all be powered by Gist. So right now, our goal is to be at 100 million searches per month by the end of the year. We're well on our way to that goal. We'll pass that before the end of the year. And our goal is to be at 1 billion searches a month by the end of next year. And at 1 billion searches a month, this is wildly sustainable and very profitable for all the partners. So 1 billion searches a month is very small compared to Google, which does 8.5 billion searches a day. But 1 billion searches a month would still be very, very significant in terms of driving traffic back and revenues back to all of these publisher partners.
And let's, beyond just the attribution, let's talk about like advertising and sort of an advertising business model that would make sense for something like this, and also AI in general. I do feel like this is something we're definitely sort of still working out. I know Google obviously is heavily interested in this, and it's starting to monetize AI overviews with pretty simple ad strips and stuff. There's a whole ethical question of kind of like, do you want to put anything ad related within an answer, and is there even a good way to do that? And then there's I'd love to get into even like affiliate models if you guys are thinking about those. But what is basically, so far as you found, what is the right way to do advertising in these kind of engines?
We've come up with a really great way that we're pioneering. It's a sponsored supplement. And think of it the following way. You definitely don't want to put advertising or alter the actual answer from the AI engine. If you're going to an AI answer engine with a trustworthy goal that is giving you an unbiased answer, you definitely don't want to touch that answer at all. So here's what we do. We analyze the question that you've put in. We look at the answer that has come up, and then we use an LLM to process that and say, is there anything additional from a sponsor that would add value to this answer? If not, don't do anything. But if so, at the bottom, at the end of the answer, call it out as a sponsored supplement and have that added content. That is a great way to honor the user, honor the advertiser, and keep the integrity of the answer intact. And we feel that is really going to be the future of AI advertising. We're very excited about it, and we're pioneering that.
And have you thought about it all, the idea that a lot of content on the internet, especially at like certain publishers that would focus on evergreen content or reviews, for a good chunk of the 2010s, there was sort of an affiliate model with transactions, and I'm curious if we've started to see payment sort of buttons and stuff in answers, right? And I don't know if those are sort of tied to affiliate models. Some of them might be.
Payment as in buy a product kind of buttons. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so you buy a product, and then what would traditionally happen on a publisher site is that you would get whatever the affiliate cut is of it, right?
Percentage, right? Cut.
And so, but the thing is, because of engines are now disintermediating, that traffic is going down. It's becoming less of an investment for publishers. I mean, we've seen a few major review sites essentially go under in the last year or two, partly because of AI, not entirely, but certainly partly because of AI. This sort of inevitable thing. Business Insider even said earlier this year they're going to get away from their this kind of content. How do you are we just still at the sort of the nascent stage that this is a concern that's down the road? I've heard some ideas thought of sort of potentially doing rev shares even within these answer engines with affiliate links, but I'm just curious if it's something ProRata's thought about at all.
ProRata's not doing that, but I do think that model will evolve. But here's what I say about the traffic decline that's happening at some of the websites and what websites can do is take back search. If search is not going to deliver users, at least when you have a user, deliver search to them at your site. Basically, people are hungering now to interact with answers in this new form. So I think all sites should offer that, because if you can hold on to your user and have more engagement, taking advantage of that search, then you can play a part in whatever that revenue monetization model is, whether it's affiliate revenues of your own or whether it's the advertising model that I proposed. But I feel that when Google came out with the link strength algorithm, it was called PageRank from Larry Page. They patented it. They had a superior method of figuring out what links to show you when you did a search. That was a very big advantage over prior search. Today, with LLMs, everyone can use it. It's a level playing field. There's open source LLMs. There's LLMs you can partner with. There's no one person who has this LLM transformer technology. So it's a much more level playing field for everybody to be able to participate in AI search. You couldn't, as a little website back in 2004, make your own Google search. There was no open source Google search that you could do at your own site. But today there is open source AI search that you could do at your own site. So I sort of feel everyone should participate in this as much as possible. A website should own that experience more than they ever could before, because now it's possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like what someone else terms the answer layer. You know,
Yes.
you kind of want
Yes.
to own your own answer layer. But to your
Yes.
point, you kind of have to also go beyond just like your content on your site
Yes.
to keep them there, to give them the best experience, so you can sort of collaborate with them within your ecosystem and your site, and then sort of steer them toward whatever help you can give them, but really ultimately whatever help they need, whether
Yes.
it's you're giving it to them or not.
And I would say, I love the way you called it an answer layer. I'm going to go even a level above, and I'm going to call it a conversation layer. Meaning, the new way people can interact is not just a 4-word query, not even a 20-word query. It's a 5-minute conversation. It's a query, then a follow-on, then a change, then oh, that gave me an idea, and then go on. So if you can engage someone in a 5-minute conversation, that is hugely valuable. And I think every media creator needs to do that. That is how you extract the value and hold on to it from this unfair value exchange that's happening right now at the AI search engines. Now, they're trying to do that too, but now individuals have the tools to play in that game. They're not left out of that. And that is where I think content creators need to pull back some more of that ownership. It's
So
really
where does
powerful. It's really
where
powerful.
where does that leave content strategy though? You know, I like what you're saying, and I'm sort of aligned, but as a person who's often working, thinking about what am I going to write today, what am I going to publish today, how does that affect that decision making? You know what I mean? Like, you know, like for the longest time, search and social had a certain set of incentives. Now this is, you know, I think the term we're kind of settling on is GEO,
Yeah,
although I
yeah,
still
yeah,
see
yeah,
AIEO and these
yeah,
other ones. But and I think that's only part of the answer. You know, like the conversation isn't just, you know, placing in the search, but like what beyond just like strategizing to be in that answer.
yeah.
What is your like advice, given what you see at ProRata, that for people in charge of content strategy today, what should they be
You're
thinking,
going to
doubling
laugh at
down
how
on?
simple my advice is,
Okay.
but it is know your audience and add value. So to the extent that you have new and novel ideas to share that people want, it's just double and triple and quadruple down on that. So your expertise from the podcasts I've watched of yours, uh, your knowledge in the media space, it's just double, triple down on all the insights you have in that area that your listeners and that the people you connect to would want. The more of that you give, the deeper the connection, the deeper that conversation I was just describing will be, and the more value you create. But it really is, it's less about gaming anymore, like SEO was, and more about just adding value, because you really can't game an LLM. An LLM is probabilistic. It just uses math. It's not about, did you trick it with this keyword or did you do that? So we've had 20 years of gaming where the SEO experts were teaching you how to try and get higher by doing this trick and this. Remember, there used to be white text on white and all the things that people were doing to try and repeat the keyword multiple times. That's over. Now it's all about, do you have value to add to your constituency? because the LLM will just make that decision mathematically on the words that the person uses. So I actually think it's liberating because now it goes away from gamesmanship to just true value. And that is what I would recommend to anybody in the content business to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've written similar things. One of my first columns, in fact, was sort of talking about how the incentives AI could actually improve your
I
focus on
think so.
audience.
I think it really does. It's truer and closer to absolute value add than the way the system was sort of rigged or designed in the past. It wasn't rigged. No one planned it that way. It's just when you have a link strength algorithm, that's going to be gamed. People were going to have link rings and do this and do that, and you had to play that game. But when you have an LLM, it's purely words. It's purely math around words, and that's way better.
It kind of assumes the LLM is designed well and is following those first principles that you're talking about,
Yes.
which it can be questionable. I mean, obviously, we have a lot of different models from a lot of different
Yes.
actors and even national actors.
Yes.
They're responding to incentives too, like the companies that design them. So, we have the new AI action plan from the White House and all these other things. So there's politics involved. And
Well,
obviously they have different company goals too, right?
there's no question that the master prompt that the AI company uses. So Elon has Grok use a different master prompt than Altman at ChatGPT has. It's not just Altman who sets it. It's not just Elon who sets it, but there's a master prompt that guides the LM. But that still is just boundary guidelines. It's not changing the fundamental principle of the statistics it uses on words. So in that sense, it's not really like the link strength algorithm, which was much more gameable. And that prompt is a constant prompt. It doesn't change every time. So it really is a lot more fixed in that the new goal is add value and not play games, which is really great. I actually think that's liberating, as I said.
So where does this intersect with traditional revenue models? So let's start with subscriptions, right? It seemed like, the what subscriptions were hot for a while, then they were gone, then they were back. And now that, you have AIs summarizing things and driving people to more content, do you predict that that's going to get hot again? Are people going to start walling off their content in response to some of these
I
AI
think
engines?
so.
I feel like that's kind of a simplistic response, but
No,
yeah.
I think that is true, and I think that accounts a lot for Substack's success and accounts for the success of publications that have really driven hard on subscriptions to hold on to their users. I think The Atlantic is one good example of that, where Nick there has really pushed hard to drive a bigger subscriber base where maybe only 40% of their traffic comes from search engines and 60% of their business comes from repeat subscribers. And I think everybody is going to try and have a tighter connection to their audience. And that's also why I say take back search, get in the conversation, have deeper conversations with your users. That's how you hold on to that value, by sort of disintermediating the search engine. The search engine is trying to disintermediate you. I think the goal of the content producer is to disintermediate the search engine and make the search engine not necessary, because you can do the search and the conversation at your own site.
And traditional advertising, obviously we just talked about a little bit about advertising in AI, but the whole idea of sort of people coming to sites and then, monetizing mass numbers, I mean, I don't think that goes away entirely, but I mean, it becomes a smaller part of the overall publishing picture. Do
Yes,
you agree?
I think that people hate interruptive advertising. People hate advertising that is irrelevant to them or to what they're looking at the moment. The beauty of LLMs is they can understand the context of what you're doing so well that that can actually be used to improve advertising and make you say, thank you for telling me about that. So there are some magazines that people buy for the advertising. I know that I do. I buy a photography magazine because I want to know about the new cameras or the new lenses that have come out. People buy Vogue magazine because they want to know about the new dresses or the new shoes that have come out. And the magazine would be worse if there were no ads in it. That's because the ads are so targeted and so relevant. A lot of the advertising on the internet is programmatic and is not relevant. It's based on something you looked at 3 months ago, or some shoes you looked at or maybe purchased a week ago, and now they still keep showing those shoes. But if instead an LLM is used to read the article you're looking at and say, what else would you be thinking about at this moment that I could serve to you that would actually help you understand something more. I think advertising is going to move in that direction because people are going to get used to that and like it. People are going to see advertising that's good, and people are going to see advertising that's bad, and they're going to migrate to the ones that are good, and that's going to force people to make advertising better. So I actually think LLMs can make advertising much more welcome than it has been in the past.
Have you had a chance to check out any of the newer sort of consumer agents, whether it's ChatGPT agent or Perplexity has its new
Yes, the comment browser.
uh, comment browser?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Have you checked those out?
Yes, yes. I think those have incredible potential. They're a little bit risky because they don't get everything perfectly right. And one reason that there's a challenge with agents that do multi-step process is if an agent is right 95% of the time, that sounds pretty good. But if you have a 10-step process, that compounds and it's only 59%
Yeah.
success rate. And if you have 20 steps, it's only 36% success rate. So very complicated multi-step processes where there might be money at stake, I don't know if people are going to trust agents. But very simple processes where the agent can do something for you that is not existential or you're not going to lose a lot of money, I think is very valuable.
Yeah, what I like about them, I totally appreciate the complexity thing, and I agree. I think they're probably going to, as people get used to them, be used for a few things that
Yes,
are sort of in a narrow band of
yes,
complexity. And,
yes,
like for consumers, they're not going to be prompt engineers. They're going to
yes,
be, it's going to
yes,
be relatively simple things, but they are helpful for that. And whenever I sort of think about when I use the assistant in comment, that's the thing I use the most. I think about all the context it needs
yes,
for to do whatever it want, right? And that's sort of where I sort of see some potential for just more of potential, the more scraping for that. They're going to get the information from somewhere. At some point, some clever publisher will have something, and that will, with a model like yours, do something. Here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. What I feel like is that as we move more towards that, and I don't think we'll get there entirely, but it does to some extent put publishers in the role of like wholesalers. I think my friend Brian Morrissey calls it this,
yeah,
like they're
yeah,
information wholesalers.
yeah,
Do you think that's going to happen for some, not necessarily publishers, whole publishers, but certain categories of
yes.
content?
I do
You know
think
what I
so.
mean?
I do think
Yeah.
so.
Like,
Well, one, the agents will have to come up with a compensation scheme for getting that information, and why I think they will is this is going to be costly. So think about the context that you just said. If you have a 10-step process that you want your agent to do, the context has to keep on adding as you add each one of those steps in. So now you start getting to a lot of tokens, which actually cost a lot of energy and cost a lot of electricity and cost more money. So you're going to have to pay a more serious subscription fee than your $5 or $20 a month if you want to do complex tasks. And relatively simple things might actually get quite complex. But that means that you might pay, if it's adding value to you, you might pay a $100 a month subscription for a serious agent, which just means there's revenue to share with that wholesaler. So the wholesaler might be able to do pretty well. So I think people who contribute to making you more productive should get some compensation for it. And I think if this is to lift all boats and to make people more productive, then the money will flow if we can convince all of these companies to properly share their revenue with the people who help them earn it. And that's my whole goal. That circles back to my whole goal here, which is not to be the middleman for all of that, but to control, guilt, show a demonstration, show that this works, and evangelize that this is the way it should go. And I actually feel we've made some progress so far. Some pretty good progress so far. Well, certainly we made progress convincing 750 publishers to join. Now we have to convince the big AI companies to use a model like this.
So as we wrap up here, I'm curious, let's put on our whether it's our time machines or crystal balls or thinking hats, thinking about like what does a future AI mediated ecosystem look like? One that's healthy anyway.
Yes, yes,
Um, in thinking about all these trends here, and as I cover it too, I there's a lot of very hopeful things, including what you guys are up to at ProRata, but I can't help but think a lot of aspects of publishing and media are going to be smaller. Not some big, majorly smaller, some not at just slightly reduced. Um, And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You know what I mean? I just feels like everything's getting a little more niche, a little more specialized. Everyone's going to have to deal with less traffic, but potentially certain other aspects of the business, perhaps if the monetizing the bots works, it'll make up for it. But
yeah. Well, here's my vision. Here's my vision for how it will be bigger. How about that?
Go. I love it.
I believe that in just a few years, to 5 to 10 years, we will be walking around, and we're already doing this to some extent, with our AirPods in, or our Meta glasses on, or some other wristband, maybe the new thing that Johnny Ive is working on with OpenAI. And in my life, I'll be walking down the street. I'll be paying a $50 a month or $20 a month or even $100 a month premium subscription for great information at my fingertips. I'll be walking down the street and I'll say, I really want to get some great pizza. I'm here in Manhattan. What's a great place around the corner? And a great New York Times review will stream into my ears, and the New York Times will earn $1 for that, because automatically they'll get compensated for having written that great review that I follow and walk into the store. And that business model doesn't exist right now. New York Times doesn't make $1 for that great article that reviewer write. And by the way, that's going to get $1 from me and $1 from someone else and $1 from someone else. And so I actually think that this can be way more lucrative than the current model, where I subscribe on a one month overall fee, and I have to go to the New York Times, I have to find that article, I have to search, or I have to go to Google and then pay for click. But it's just information that I care about will stream to me, and I'll pay for it. And I'll pay for it either with ad support, or I'll pay for it with my subscription fee, but money will flow back to the person who wrote it or created it. And I think that's a great model.
Nice. That's a great vision. I can't wait to wear those glasses.
Yeah.
Bill, this has been fabulous. Thanks so much for taking the time and telling us all about ProRata and your vision for publishing in the age of AI.
Thank you very much. Really great to talk to you.
Thanks for listening to my conversation with Bill Gross of ProRata. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd appreciate it if you take just a minute to leave a rating and review for the Media Copilot in your podcast app. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Media Copilot newsletter and check out MediaCopilot.ai for our classes on AI for journalists, PR professionals, and communicators. Be seeing you in the future.